Hi all, I want to continue my look at static versus dynamic thinking. Now before getting into this, I'll just quickly load up my previous slide which I'd knocked up with paint. And I was a bit uncomfortable thinking about this after that. I kind of put these two buts in. There's embedded cynicism, dynamism when you think strategically, and I put the buts, you need the positional emphasis when thinking dynamically. And I did use this idea that tactics is like lots and lots of little arrows, like representing half move ply, and also breadth kind of search, and it's what computers can do, can excel at, tactical thinking. And humans, we can look deep into the slower features of the position, like pawn structure, and look at the slower elements, like weak squares, which are implied by pawn structure, or king position, or other slower features like pawn islands or the two bishops, and we can do plans based on them. There's kind of long arrows, so there might be many moves ahead implied, looking deep into endings, even from an opening. So I argued, humans were better than computers looking at the static, the slower features of the position, and this idea of strategic crush. But tactically, you can also crush people if you find fantastic tactical resources. And was it Richard Teichmann, someone emphasised, he said chess is 99% tactics, which I think is a bit an overemphasis on tactics, but I think for players under 1800, I think doing lots of puzzles is really good to improve your actual practical results, because it doesn't matter what plans you have, if they get blown up tactically by your opponents, then this is sort of academic. But I want to move now onto this new slide I did, which is a 4-quadrant model. And when I was doing information systems, I was studying computing and business. This 4-quadrant model was a favourite one of the books on information systems, how businesses plan strategy, and how operations are strategic, but they called it factory for tactics. But we're calling it tactical thinking. So at the top quadrant is pure strategic thinking. So say you were thinking deeply about pawn structure and very long-term manoeuvres, and the bottom quadrant you're thinking very deeply about, you're just doing loads and loads of calculations, trying to make sure you don't miss anything, any important resources for either side. And then there's these kind of mixtures in between where you're looking tactically, but you're looking to see the implications for strategy. So you might see that after a particular combination, you will have a passed pawn, or a different variation, the opponent's king's slightly unsafe. So you're looking at the long arrow sort of implications of your tactics. And here's a slight sort of the same, but the other way round, where you're looking to alter positional factors, and then you do a bit of calculation to support each of those ideas. So these are the two extremes, pure strategic and pure tactical. And I thought, well, what are the issues here if you're thinking, tactically? I think a practical issue in over-the-board chess is just simply exhaustion. And sometimes you miscalculate. And so if you did have a concrete advantage in position and you went into a razor-sharp combination, you missed something, then you could actually wreck your advantage and end up losing. So sometimes this idea of simple chess is important, and simple chess is playing more to avoid the need even for doing intense calculation. By keeping things simple, you keep it focused on your the elements, the slower elements of the position. So slow element based play. So when you indulge in calculation, it's like you are sometimes indulging in complications. And you can use this idea, if you think your opponent's a real calculator, you can use idea like maintaining the tension in the position. Instead of getting into the complications, you keep it hanging over the opponent. They keep calculating and calculating, and they get exhausted. And that's actually happened once. Literally, my opponent resigned because he was just totally exhausted, because I held the tension in the position instead of carrying out a very tempting attack. So as well as humans being worse tactically than computers in terms of accuracy, we really haven't got that energy level needed to calculate all the time. And you can exploit that, by trying, if you sense the opponent's over calculating. So tactical thinking, and you're looking at the implications for the long term. That's good, because if at the end of combinations you end up with a strategic disadvantage, it doesn't matter if you've just won material. You could be giving the opponent a passed pawn, etc. So I think these two are kind of probably the most common. It's very rare you'd have a position. This is where I've put common issues. A position where you can just have pure strategic thinking. I think usually you do a lot of calculation, just to make sure you're not going to get blown up tactically. But I said, as I sort of mentioned in the previous video, this idea of matching to the needs of the position. If the position is highly tactical, then D kind of dominates. If the position's kind of got a bit of structural implications or some slower elements, then these two come into mind. And if the position is very closed, then A might be justified, this pure strategic thinking. And last time I gave an example of a highly tactical game, which was the Howl was a tactical game, and there was also this other example I gave from Hastings with Botvinnik and this very tactical refutation. But now let's look where pure strategic thinking might be justified in a very closed position in the example that I'm going to show you next. But impacting all of these, I think, is preparation. I think opening preparation, you can have more comfortable positions, and so you'll be more naturally aware of the right plans, and a lot of the tactical ideas and motifs you'll be aware of. So I think that's why people try and surprise their opponents a lot, even in, if you look at the Hastings, because you want the opponent to improvise as much as possible. I think that's a common issue with especially strategic thinking. If the opponent has to improvise, it's more likely that they're going to get a less effective plan or an incorrect plan. So the more you can get the opponent improvising. So sometimes playing an offbeat opening can wobble the opponent strategically. Even if you're both, tactically the same sort of skill level, you might be aware of more of the ideas because you're more comfortable with positions after a chosen opening. I also mentioned other external issues, so opening theory generally, endgame knowledge. I've also mentioned, endgames require their own thematic thoughts. That's why I'd like to do quite a few endgames actually to study the themes of particular endgame positions, because this is really about middle game, strategy versus tactics, this quadrant model. So anyway, in the next video, let's look at a strategic thinking example, and please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.